Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Claire's Circle. Today, we're going to touch on one of the most difficult and heartbreaking topics a couple can ever face. It's a story about how the most wanted pregnancy can turn into a trial that splits a family in two. It's a story about love, fear, and a choice that has no right answer. This story comes from a subscriber named Hannah. She gave me permission to share it because she's at a point where support and an outside perspective are what she needs more than ever. She asked me to tell her story as it is, with all of its pain and complexity. Hannah and her husband Ben have been together for 8 years. She describes their marriage as a partnership built on deep respect, shared values, and endless conversation. They were always on the same page. Their biggest and most cherished dream was to become parents, but that path turned out to be a difficult one for them. They went through several years of struggling with infertility, through disappointment and tears. So when they finally saw 2 lines on a pregnancy test, their happiness knew no bounds. This pregnancy wasn't just wanted, it was hard-won, a miracle. The first few months, according to Hannah, were absolute bliss. She and Ben were inseparable. They went to every doctor's appointment together, listened to their baby's heartbeat together, chose a name together, and bought tiny clothes together. Ben was an incredibly caring husband. He would talk to her belly, give her foot rubs in the evening, and make sure she was resting. They felt like a single, invincible team, ready for whatever lay ahead. They were sure their love could overcome any difficulty. The turning point came at 20 weeks, during the routine anatomy scan. This is the screening where the doctor examines all the baby's organs in detail. Hannah remembers how she and Ben walked into the office, laughing and holding hands, excited to see their little one on the screen again. At first, everything was normal. The technician moved the probe across her belly, and the outlines of little arms, legs, and a spine appeared on the screen. But then the technician fell silent. He started spending longer and longer on one spot, the area around the baby's heart. The atmosphere in the room subtly changed. The lightness and joy gave way to a tense silence. Hannah felt Ben's hand grip hers tighter. After a long silence, the technician said he needed to get the doctor. The doctor came in, stared at the screen for a long time, and then turned to us with that serious expression that every expectant parent fears. He told them he suspected the baby had a complex congenital heart defect, as well as some other markers that could indicate a genetic abnormality. He recommended they undergo an amniocentesis for a definitive diagnosis. Hannah and Ben's world collapsed in an instant. The next 2 weeks, waiting for the results, were the longest of their lives. They barely slept, barely spoke. They just held on to each other, united in their shared fear. And then the call from the clinic came. The diagnosis was confirmed. Their baby not only had a severe heart defect that would require multiple surgeries in the first few years of life, but also a rare chromosomal abnormality. The doctor spoke of potential developmental delays, of lifelong medical supervision, of the many challenges they would have to face. That evening, Hannah says, they cried together. They held each other and mourned the easy, happy life they had imagined for themselves. In their grief, they were still a single unit, but they didn't know that it was the last evening they would be on the same side. After a few days of shock, Ben began to act as he always did. He started gathering information. He dove into medical journals, statistical reports, and forums. He read about prognoses, survival rates after surgeries, the quality of life for children with a similar diagnosis, and the more he read, the darker his expression became. A week later, he sat across from Hannah and, looking into her eyes with infinity pain, said the words that would divide them forever. He said, "Hannah, I love you and I love this baby, and it is precisely because I love him that I can't condemn him to a life full of suffering. I've read everything. He's facing hospitals, surgeries, a constant struggle. He'll never be able to run and play like other kids. I think the most humane and loving thing we can do right now is to terminate the pregnancy, to let him go before he has to know that pain. She listened to him and felt a wall rising between them. Because she, unlike him, had spent that week very differently. She was also looking for information, but she wasn't looking for statistics. She was looking for stories. She found blogs, support groups, communities of parents raising children with the same diagnosis, and she saw a completely different picture. She saw challenges, yes, but she also saw incredible love, joy in small victories, smiles on the faces of children. She saw families that were close-knit and happy in spite of it all. She replied to Ben, "I will not give up on our child. His life has already begun. His heart is beating. Who are we to decide that a life with challenges isn't worth living? Yes, it will be hard, but there will be love. There will be happiness. We're strong. We can handle this together." From that moment on, their home became a place of endless, agonizing debates. These weren't angry, screaming fights. They were quiet, philosophical debates that tore them apart at the seams. Ben would say, "How can we knowingly bring a child into this world just to suffer? To watch him go through one surgery after another? Is that love? Or is it our own selfishness, our desire to have a child at any cost?" He would talk about the strain on their marriage, their finances, their mental health. Hannah would answer, "And how can we take his life away without even giving him a chance? Every life has value. We can't know how much joy he will bring us or how much joy he will experience himself. Why are you so certain his life will only consist of pain?" She would show him photos of smiling children from the support groups, but he only saw future medical bills and sleepless nights. They told their parents about the diagnosis, and it only deepened the rift. Ben's pragmatic parents supported him, saying he was making a responsible, adult decision. Hannah's emotional parents sided with her, saying you have to fight for every child until the very end. Time was running out. The legal deadline for termination was approaching. The conversations grew more desperate. And one evening, in a moment of complete helplessness and pain, Ben gave her an ultimatum. He said, "Hannah, I love you more than anything, but I can't do this. I will not be able to watch our child suffer for years, knowing we could have prevented it. I won't be able to bear it. If you choose to continue this pregnancy, I don't think I can stay. I won't be able to be the father this child would need. I'm sorry." Hannah describes that moment as her own personal death. The person who was her support, her team, her everything, wasn't just refusing to walk this path with her, but was threatening to leave her at the most terrifying and vulnerable moment of her life. She now faced a choice: either terminate the life of the child she already loved more than anything, or prepare to raise a child with severe special needs alone, abandoned by her husband. She didn't give him an answer. She just asked him to leave. And now she lives in this state of limbo, in silence and fear, her heart broken. She ended her letter with a question that I want to ask all of you today. She asks, "Am I the asshole for choosing to continue my pregnancy, knowing my child will face immense medical challenges and that this choice will likely end my marriage and force me to do this alone? Or is my husband the asshole for giving me an ultimatum and abandoning me and our unborn child because he's too afraid of a life that isn't perfect?" This is a choice no one should ever have to make. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Your support and your perspective could be a lifeline for Hannah in this ocean of pain. Thank you for listening.